On February 18th, 2023, in the small town of San Miguel de las Flores, known for its peace and social solidarity, a tragic incident occurred that shocked everyone. The death of Andres Cruz, a 19-year-old young man, revealed dark and shocking secrets that few in this small town could have imagined. What began as a professional relationship between a gifted student and a distinguished teacher eventually turned into a tragic and sad story that shook the foundation of society. Isabella Mendoza, a 38-year-old woman and one of the outstanding teachers at Mirador San Lucas Warriors High School, was well known in the educational world of San Miguel de las Flores, a graduate with honors from the National Autonomous University of Mexico. She had dedicated more than a decade to teaching literature and inspiring young people. She was admired and respected for her mastery of literature and the friendly relationships she established with her students. But Isabella's personal life has always been hidden from the public eye. Divorced 5 years ago and childless, she has focused all her attention on her work, trying to avoid rumors or anything that could tarnish her reputation. On the other hand, Andres Cruz, a talented and hardworking student from a poor family, had been able to receive a full scholarship to study at San Lucas High School due to his intelligence and genius. Despite his high intelligence and interest in literature, he was a quiet and withdrawn young man who rarely participated in social activities. Books were his only true friends, and his interest in Latin American writers had distinguished him from others in literature classes. The first meaningful encounter between Isabella and Andres took place in September 2022, during the first days of the school year. Isabella quickly noticed Andres's extraordinary ability to analyze literary texts and his endless passion for literature. At first, their relationship was professional and based on mutual respect and admiration, but over time, everything changed. In October 2022, Isabella decided to organize an extracurricular book club to encourage students to read. Andres was the first to sign up and soon became the star of the club. His and Isabella's shared interest in literature led them to long conversations and deep discussions. Over time, other students noticed Isabella's special attention to Andres. Some attributed this attention to Andres's outstanding abilities, but there were also rumors among the students. Some said, "It's clear that he is the teacher's favorite student," and others jokingly pointed out the excessive closeness between the two. However, no one could have guessed that this relationship would go beyond expectations. By December 2022, Isabella and Andres's relationship had entered a new phase. Their conversations were no longer limited to class and book club. They began via email and then moved to WhatsApp. Gradually, the topics of these messages went beyond academic matters and became more personal. Isabella talked about her love of poetry, her frustrations with life, and her struggles as a single woman in a small town. Andres, in turn, talked about his dreams of becoming a writer, his family's financial pressures, and his problems with his peers. On a quiet afternoon in mid-December, when Andres handed over his essay on 100 Years of Solitude to Isabella, she specifically praised him for the first time. "Your understanding of magical realism is extraordinary at this age. You are truly exceptional," she said, her eyes filled with pride. This simple but intimate moment was a turning point that would profoundly change their relationship over the winter break. Their conversations became more intimate and frequent. On January 8, 2023, Isabella suggested meeting him at a cafe outside the city to discuss a literary project that Andres had previously discussed. The meeting, which began with professional goals, quickly turned into a more personal conversation. Isabella praised Andrés's intellectual maturity, and Andrés thanked her for changing his life. They took the first step toward a secret relationship in late January, their first private meeting taking place in a remote location. A relationship that was true love for Andrés, but for Isabella, it was tinged with anxiety and fear. That day in class, Isabella stopped Andrés to compliment him on his work when he read his essay on 100 Years of Solitude. With a smile that Andrés later described as warm and encouraging, she said, "Your understanding of magical realism at this age is amazing. You have an exceptional talent." It was a simple but memorable moment for both of them. As winter break began, Isabella and Andrés continued to communicate via WhatsApp, and the connection gradually became more personal. Isabella began to confide in Andrés, something she had long avoided doing. She shared with Andrés her frustrations about the monotony of life, her romantic failures, and her fading passion for teaching. Andrés, in turn, saw Isabella as a sympathetic listener and someone who truly understood her. On January 8, 2023, a few days before schools reopened, Isabella suggested they meet at a cafe outside the city to discuss a literary project that Andrés had previously talked about. The meeting, which initially seemed professional, quickly turned into a more personal conversation. Isabella praised Andrés's intellectual maturity, and Andrés praised Isabella's intelligence and passion for teaching. At that moment, the line between their professional and personal relationship became completely blurred. January 20th, 2023, was a turning point in the story. After a book club meeting, Andrés volunteered to help Isabella organize the classroom's books. As they worked, their conversation grew more intimate. In a moment of vulnerability and trust, the two of them kissed. This was the first step in a relationship that quickly turned into a secret affair. Isabella, aware of the moral and legal consequences of her relationship, tried to justify her actions. She told herself that Andrés was an adult, and that their relationship was real and consensual. But she knew that if it were revealed, she would lose her job, her reputation, and her life. In the weeks that followed, Isabella and Andrés began to meet secretly in remote, unidentifiable locations. But this secrecy soon became a problem. Andrés's behavior began to change. He could no longer concentrate in class, was late to group meetings, and sometimes skipped class without a valid reason. Isabella, on the other hand, became anxious and distanced herself more emotionally from her colleagues. For Andrés, this relationship was no longer just a romantic affair. He spoke lovingly of their future together, and even suggested that they make their relationship public. But Isabella, terrified of the consequences of such a move, refused every time. She knew that this relationship had to remain in the shadows. As February 2023 approached, the intensity of their relationship and the effort to hide it became more and more difficult. Rumors had spread at school about Isabella's excessive attention to Andrés, and the curious glances of students and teachers increased their stress. In February, Andrés was more involved in his feelings than ever. During one of their meetings, he said to Isabella, "If this is true love, why should we hide it?" But Isabella, herself overcome with fear and guilt, replied, "You don't understand everything. This love would cost me everything." But their decisions during that fateful month set in motion events that would shake not only their lives, but the peaceful, close-knit community of Santo de la Luna. Their relationship was no longer a secret, but a bomb that was about to explode. On February 10, 2023, during a meeting at a hotel in the suburbs of San Miguel de las Rosas, Andrés confessed to Isabella that he had spoken to his best friend David about their relationship. Although Andres had not revealed Isabella's identity, he had only mentioned that he was in a relationship with a woman. When Isabella heard this, she was shocked and extremely anxious, fearing that someone might suspect them. At school, rumors began to spread about Andres and his mysterious fiancée. David, concerned about his friend's condition, shared with others that Andres seemed to be in a relationship that was affecting him emotionally. Sometimes he's happy, like he's floating in the sky, but sometimes he seems sad, like someone carrying a heavy burden, he told a friend. Meanwhile, some teachers also began to notice changes in Isabella's behavior during staff meetings. She seemed more absent-minded and anxious than ever, and her closeness to Andres had not gone unnoticed. Although no one had any definitive proof, rumors began to spread among her colleagues. On February 14th, Valentine's Day at school, a joke from a student raised suspicions. "Why is Andres so close to Miss Rivera? It's like he's giving her a special gift," one of the classmates joked. Although the remark seemed like a joke at first, it became a serious matter for the other students, and everyone began to pay closer attention to the relationship between Andres and Isabella. The increasing pressure on Andres and Isabella was overwhelming for Isabella. She knew that if anyone investigated, their relationship would be exposed, and she would suffer the loss of her job and reputation. In late February, Isabella decided to avoid frequent meetings with Andres at school and to cancel many of her out-of-school visits. But this only increased Andres's frustration and anxiety. On February 20th, after a heated argument in a park near the school, Andres told Isabella, "Why are you hiding so much? This is not just a game. I am ready to face anything, if it is with you." Isabella tried to calm her down, but his answer was ambiguous. "You don't understand. I would lose everything. You can move on with your life, but I can't." Despite all their differences, they reconciled that same night, and Isabella promised that they would find a way to continue their relationship without anyone finding out. But in Isabella's mind, suspicion and fear continued to grow. As the rumors grew, Isabella began to plan how to better hide their relationship. In early March, she suggested to Andres that they reduce the number of times they met and distance themselves from each other in class. "This is just temporary, until the rumors die down," she told Andres. Andres reluctantly agreed, but the distance only increased his concerns. Meanwhile, the rumors continued to grow at school. Clara Sanchez, a teacher at the school who had worked with Isabella for years, approached her after noticing changes in Isabella's behavior. "Are you okay? You seem very tired and absent-minded lately," she said with concern. Isabella, with a fake smile, attributed her behavior to work pressures, but Clara was not convinced. Isabella knew she could no longer hide herself, and every look or comment about Andres made her feel like she was being judged. The pressure got to her, and on February 25th, when the school principal, Mr. Lopez, called her into his office, Isabella left the meeting feeling under scrutiny and doubt. On February 27th, Andres, tired of the distance and the uncertain state of their relationship, made an emotional decision. He made a risky move during a visit to Isabella's house. March 3rd, 2023, was the day, that fateful day for Isabella and Andres. Isabella, unable to bear the unimaginable pressure any longer, made a difficult decision. "If you're not willing to take the risk for this relationship, I don't see any reason to continue," Andres told Isabella in a firm voice. Isabella, terrified by his threat, tried to calm her down, but Andres was more determined than ever. "If we end it, I won't keep quiet. Everyone will find out what happened." Andres's threat was like a nightmare that Isabella couldn't escape. Isabella tried to explain to Andres in a calm tone that the consequences of such a revelation of a relationship were unbearable. "You don't understand what it means. It's not just for me, it's for you, too. Please give me time to think." Although Andres seemed to have calmed down for a moment, Isabella knew that she had lost all control. Days passed, and the tension between them reached a point where it affected their daily lives. Isabella, who saw herself losing everything that was precious to her, began to think about ending the relationship in a definitive way. But ending it with Andres was not easy, since he was still present at the school, and at any moment there was a possibility that their relationship would be discovered. On March 1st, 2023, Isabella invited Andres to her home. The pretext for this meeting was to talk about their future, but in her heart lay a plan that could hide their secret forever. Her decision was courageous, and at the same time terrible. Fear and despair had led her to a decision that had never crossed her mind before. That night, as Andres entered the quiet house on the outskirts of San Miguel de las Rosas, Isabella tried to put on a calm face. But all the tension in her face was clearly visible. She had prepared dinner and had placed a bottle of wine on the table to calm the atmosphere. But Andres still insisted on making their relationship public. "I can't hide anymore. I want this to be real. We need time. It's best to stay as we are. I don't want anyone to suspect us." But in her heart, another decision was forming. She mixed Andres's wine with a sedative she had bought a few days earlier and gave it to him to drink. Soon, Andres felt dizzy. "I feel sleepy, as if something is wrong with my body." These were the last words she uttered before losing consciousness. With trembling hands but an iron will, Isabella carried her to the living room and gently laid her down on the sofa. Then, quickly and carefully, she transferred her to the trunk of her car. While her mind was in turmoil, only one thing was on her mind. She had to eliminate this danger once and for all. She drove the car to a remote area on the outskirts of the city, a place where she used to come to escape from stress. In the heart of the forest, where only silence and darkness reigned, Isabella, with trembling but determined hands, made sure that no one would ever know her secret. When it was all over, and the silence spread throughout the air, Isabella was no longer the same Isabella she had once taught in the classroom. Guilt and fear rushed through him, but there was no way out. His life, what he had built, had reached this point. And that night, in the heart of the forest, a story began from which there was no turning back. Andres was not breathing, and Isabella buried his body in an area covered with bushes and dry leaves. She had planned every detail carefully, even the places where she would leave Andres's personal belongings to make it look like he had decided to run away. Before returning home, she destroyed Andres's phone and erased all the tracers that could accuse him of a crime. The next day, March 4th, Isabella went to school as if nothing had happened. Although nervous and tense, she tried to act normal. However, Andres's absence was quickly noticed by her colleagues and students. When his family reported him missing to the police, an investigation began that same day. Over the following days, the police launched a massive search for Andres, questioning friends, family, and colleagues to reconstruct his last movements. Andres's best friend, David, mentioned conversations he had with him about his relationship with an older woman. Although he did not know the woman's identity, her testimony led the police to people close to Andres at school. Isabella soon became one of the prime suspects. Her nervous and evasive behavior during interrogations made the police suspicious. In addition, some teachers and students recalled rumors about her closeness to Andres, suggesting that she might be involved in his disappearance. On March 10th, the police obtained a search warrant for Isabella's home. Although no direct evidence of her involvement in the murder was found, text messages and calls between her and Andres, recovered from Andres's phone, indicated a relationship that went beyond professional. Armed with this information, the police decided to increase surveillance on Isabella. On March 15th, following an anonymous tip that had informed the police that Isabella had been seen near the wooded area where Andres had been buried, the police found Andres's body. An autopsy revealed that Andres had been poisoned before strangulation, confirming that his death was not accidental. The news of the discovery of the body shocked the community. Rumors about the affair between Isabella and Andres became a major topic of discussion among the neighbors, who were divided into two camps. Some believed in Isabella's innocence, while others believed her guilty. On March 18th, Isabella was arrested at her home and charged with murder. During interrogations, she always denied any involvement in Andres's death, claiming that her relationship with him was purely professional. However, the evidence against her was very strong. The trial of Isabella Rivera began on May 5, 2023, and attracted national attention. Prosecutors presented strong evidence, including text messages between her and Andres, testimonies from classmates and teachers, and autopsy results. Although Isabella maintained her innocence, the jury quickly reached a verdict. On June 20th, Isabella was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 35 years in prison. During the sentencing, she was emotionless, saying only in her closing remarks that she never intended to hurt Andres, and that it was a mistake that got out of hand. "I never wanted it to end like this," she said, before being led out of the courtroom. The tragedy of Andres Cruz and Isabella Mendoza left a lasting mark on San Miguel de las Rosas. San Jose School District enacted new policies to prevent such incidents from happening again, but the damage was irreparable. Andres's family struggled to come to terms with her loss for months, while Isabella's character went from a respected teacher to a symbol of how power and desperation can lead to disastrous decisions. If you've read this story and want to hear more stories like this, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel. Hit the subscribe button to get the latest stories and fascinating analysis, and share your thoughts with us. Also, if this story touched you, please share it with your friends. Stay tuned.